In today's debate, we are going to be talking about, is women's basketball outshining men's basketball right now? So there's been some discourse online about its growing popularity, viewership, the pros, college, varying interests across basketball fans, and whether or not the women deserved to get paid more.
Not only have the women been getting paid more, but the new CBA agreement has done more than just give players more money. It sets the league up to continue building upon its growth for the future. And something that I've been very excited to see is how the NCAA March Madness tournament on the women's side has sustained strong viewership over the last several years. Welcome back to another episode of From the Rafters Pod.
A podcast about changing the way fans think and talk about basketball. Over here, we help you win your next hoops debate and let the data cook. I don't know, Kevin, a lot has happened since we've been on the mic.
Let's get into it.
We just finished watching the March Madness women's final. Ooh, okay. You go, because I don't even know where to begin. It was not how I thought it was going to be. I'll start with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, well, if I'm being honest, I didn't see South Carolina being in the final to begin with. I just didn't think it was the year. But since they got there and since they're my team, I think sometimes your judgment gets cloudy. You begin to get a bit optimistic, like we can shock the world.
I mean, they did shock the world when they beat UConn, to be fair.
Yes.
I did have them going to the final this year.
You did?
And that was just like a loyalty thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know there's been a lot of discourse online about this. I just hate that Gino's actions kind of tainted the master class of South Carolina defeating UConn, essentially giving them the first loss of the season. During the broadcast of the championship game, they mentioned, in addition to Gino's public statement that he made that felt very ChatGPT, he did call Dawn privately and apologize. I just feel like that's not good enough. I feel like the apology should be as direct and public as the chaos and the crash out at a minimum. And the late great Pat Summitt had mentioned this a bunch of times about Gino and his character and things that he has done in the past towards her too, and she's a legendary coach as well. So I don't know. Red flags for Gino.
Yeah, I thought at least in that initial statement, he should have mentioned Dawn Staley's name directly.
Like to Dawn, who I've known for years, who we have, battled and coached together. I sincerely apologize, blah, blah, blah.
Didn't feel like he wrote that at all.
At all.
Which is probably normal, but he should have at least said her name since he went at her directly.
Minimum. The first half of this South Carolina UCLA game, though, was painful to watch. They played, to me, worse in this game than they did when they lost to UConn in the final last year.
See, it was hard for me to remember that game.
I remember it very clearly, and they did not play this poorly. I don't know if I've ever seen them be taken out of their element that much.
I mean, I think looking at the matchup today, I think it was clear that South Carolina needs a big again. In years past, they had Camila. I forgot who they had running after Camila left that kept them being competitive. I'm blanking a little bit here. But it just wasn't enough that they could do inside. Lauren Betts is just such a huge matchup problem for most teams around the league. And yeah, each time they would front her, there was just no help on the backside because UCLA just kept spreading out that South Carolina defense. They went zone a little bit. I thought that helped. But then they went back to that man in the second half. And also, South Carolina just couldn't generate enough points. UCLA was getting easy looks.
They were getting shots, and they were missing a lot.
Yeah, and they were not hesitating on shots. The open look would be there. It's like they were anticipating Lauren Betts closing out, and it's like, bro, she's 10 feet away. Shoot the ball. But yeah, tough to watch.
At the half, the commentators had mentioned, I had said this to you, who's going to help Tessa?
Yeah,
and I was like, if Tessa helped a little more on defense and hit a body, and when the shot went up, because at least 4 to 5 of the second chance shots in that first half. Well, I watched 4 to 5 like darn near in a row. Wouldn't have happened if she would have put a body on somebody and boxed out. She just like was ball watching, and it was consistently her player that was getting second chance points. And like you said, when it's a team that's so outsized, and then you have people getting in foul trouble, so then you have like your smaller, like you can't play the lineup you originally anticipated. Like the bare minimum is to box out.
Yeah,
like, you must.
Yeah, and the box score isn't going to show that story. UCLA won the rebound matchup 43-33. Offensive board 17-44. You might have to look a little deeper into that first half, but yeah, I think watching it, there were too many instances where shot went up and South Carolina just looked like.
Yep.
You want to see when you're playing for all the marbles, when that shot goes up, you want to see players locate bodies and go hit them, not follow the ball. It hits the rim, and then you hope it comes towards you. Because even in those instances, they weren't even winning those rebounds.
They weren't.
So they were just getting killed on rebounds when it mattered the most.
Yeah. Another thing that is going to be interesting is to see some of those seniors transition into the mock draft not mock draft, the actual draft next week. And in our absence, I know that there's been a huge historic CBA close agreement that has happened, and a lot of them are going to be able to benefit from these changes. I know there's like a bunch of salary changes, but what else stood out to you with this new CBA? Because it was a lot.
Oh yeah, before we get into that, can I comment on something you alluded to earlier with like Lauren and going to the next level?
Sure.
Because I'll talk about this later this week in our short form. Make sure you follow the pages. But Lauren used to be like the projected number 1 overall pick. She's dropped a little bit. And you asked me during the game, or you said you wonder how she'll match up against some of the bigs in the W.
Yeah.
And that's something I thought about too, because my player comparison for her is like Camila Cardosa with a better offensive game. I think her footwork's better. I think she has a little bit more of a bag, whereas Camila's just like power shoulder until you put it on the square. But I'm thinking about Lauren at 6'7". I'm still taking Asia Wilson, right? Like Stewie at 6'4". I might still take like any player, like the Nafisas, the Stewies, any player that can make her come outside that paint.
It is going to be a problem because she can't move and retract, to me, laterally as quickly.
And then I think, offensive, or when she's on offense, I think those players can kind of affect her shots a little bit by, staying in front of her, making her finish over the top, and actually being able to contest because they're a little bit bigger than some of the players that South Carolina had defending her today. So that was just a quick plug there, or quick thoughts.
Yeah.
But the CBA, everybody focused on the money because the pay us what you owe us went viral. Everybody knows.
As it should have.
Yeah. Everyone knows that, the W has been making money or like generating revenue. There was a lot of confusion around that. But bottom line, money was there. Players are getting their share. But there are some other things that stood out to me that I think are great for the league. The first one is the new mandated roster size is now 12 players. Players used to could carry up to 12. I think they can go down to a minimum of 8. That's why sometimes you'll watch W games and like look like no one was on the bench.
Yeah.
But not only do they have to have 12 players, they also have capacity for 2 developmental spots that do not affect the salary cap. The reason why this is important is because for so many years, there was so much talent flowing into the W, but it wasn't being retained, right? You have players come out of college, they would get drafted, they would sign their rookie contracts, and then when they get to like year 3 or whenever their rookie contract expire, teams had to make a decision. It's like, do I re-sign this rookie player, or not rookie player, but young player for more money now? Or do I go back to the draft, sign someone cheaper, and see if that person, develops faster? So for years, the W couldn't develop talent like the NBA can, right? Like the NBA, you can draft a player, have them in a system for years, and then eventually, Brandon Ingram becomes Brandon Ingram, right? In the WNBA, Brandon Ingram never becomes Brandon Ingram because after his first deal, he has to go overseas. It's like what happened to players like Diamond Shields or Tia Cooper, right? All these highly touted players out of college that they just kind of fade away and have to play in overseas leagues or like Athletes Unlimited and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was one that stood out to me. The other one is revenues will continue to go up because they'll have the capacity to add more games to the W season. Like I think right now their max is like at 44 games. Mm-hmm. The 27 and 28 season that can go up to 50 games. Mm-hmm. And then by seasons 29 through 32, that can go up to 52 games. So they'll get more, as fans will get to watch more games.
Yeah.
Right? Teams will generate more money from ticket sales, TV, and things like that over time. And, I think part of that will also mean we'll end up having to talk about having a longer calendar season because
that's going to be interesting when it comes to the point of these other rival leagues too.
Mm-hmm. And like one of the things that they're talking about, and they'll probably hash this out in more detail as they iron out the fine details of the CBA, is the cadence of games. Like this past season, even though they had some more charter flights and things of that nature, they tried to space games out as best they could, there still were scheduling issues that place strain on like players' capacity, like just having to play too many games in a short amount of days. So that's something that they're going to have to fix. And then the last thing that jumped out to me was there will be new parameters around the core designation. That's like the franchise tag that people are probably familiar with in the NFL. But, the big problem with this historically is that teams used to could core a player up to 2 times over the course of their entire career. So you could place these tags on these players. And then the issue with that is it takes away players' bargaining power. So you can't say, hey, I can go play here for X amount of money because they're like, no, you're not. You're ours. Mm-hmm. And also it delayed players being able to just move about to other teams, right? I think that's something that's very important because sometimes great players get stuck in bad environments and they can't flourish. I think giving players the ability to move around a little bit is ultimately going to help the league in the long run because you'll get to see some of your stars go to places where they can be happy. And if you're happy, you probably play a little bit better, in my opinion. So those are some things that jumped out to me aside from, the great Asia Wilson being able to sign a max $1.4 million contract.
I think another thing that stood out to me was the improvements to the retirees and the retirement planning because there's expanded team contributions to player 401k accounts. Mm-hmm. That's something that has been huge for players who have played previously and haven't had that benefit. So I think moving forward, they're able to, plan for retirement like the rest of us with 9 to 5s.
Yeah. And the last thing that I should have included on my list is there's now higher requirements for like training staff and facilities for players. Like I didn't know that like they really had inadequate staffs. Like now they got to have at least 2 team doctors. Players can go get, second and third opinions and like some of that can be paid for by the team. So it's a lot of like they got to have physical therapists. And I also think they included like mental health benefits as well. So they also did some work around that, which I think is hugely important.
Yeah. And then also just if you're living under a rock, the minimum salaries will now range from $270 to $300K, and the average salary is expected to hit around $583K this year. But when the conversation about pay had first come up, like I had said, there were a lot of people saying, the WNBA doesn't make as much as the NBA, so they shouldn't get paid as much, like insinuating that the salaries were fine, right? And it was like the comparison never really made sense because we're not comparing apples to apples in that scenario. The WNBA turns 30 this year. It's its 30th season. And within the last 5 years, it has had a huge amount of growth, right? So when these types of combos come up, like I wondered what the NBA looked like at years 25 to 30 from a business standpoint. Like, how well was the NBA doing in, what was that, like the 70s? So the NBA was established in 1949, but if you go back to the Basketball Association of America in 46, 50-year difference between that and 1996, right? So keeping in mind what you said, when the NBA was in its 25th to 30th year, it was dealing with so much heavy competition from the ABA. The NBA was struggling financially. They were extremely unstable, and the league was not consistently profitable yet, which is kind of wild to think about. And this eventually led to the NBA and ABA merging, because the ABA, for talent, they drove up salaries. So people who were in the NBA were like, well, they're getting paid this much, so we should be getting paid this much. And so they signed a 6-year CBA that increased player minimum salaries, but that ended up causing financial issues in the league. And I say all that to say there's a lot of comparing apples to oranges, and comparing step 2 on one end to step 80 on the other. I see online constantly, and I just think it's like, for lack of a better word, doesn't make any sense. Stupid. But when you do the research, you see that the WNBA is experiencing comparatively very similar challenges on the business side that the NBA was at their 30-year mark. But I will say also, at the same time, they're breaking attendance records in arenas. They're able to negotiate the first comprehensive revenue sharing model in women's professional sports history, which changed like economics of the league like forever, and increased salaries by like 400%, which is the largest pay jump in U.S. sports history, like period, men or women. So it's just interesting to think about that. And then I also want to share something about Claudia Golden, because you didn't know who that was. You will never forget her again. So Claudia Golden is a Harvard professor, and she won a Nobel Prize for economic sciences for her research in the gender pay gap. She is who the WNBPA had under their wing.
Oh, I saw, yeah.
During these negotiations. And she stepped in to help them through the negotiation process for free. And she taught them how miscalculated the pay gap in sports really was, dating back to 1997. So darn near the entire existence of the WNBA has been miscalculating the pay gap. So she analyzed the data, she did all the mathematics, and she found that how their pay was calculated was a huge issue, where if you think about the WNBA average career, like dating the whole from inception, it lasts about 2 to 3 years. And the compensation was tied to people who had longer careers. So there's a huge amount of players who never got to reach the benefits that they were promised. So after grounding the negotiation in data, and she came up and she was like, this doesn't make sense. She like basically concluded that the WNBA players could indeed, one, get paid more. And so that really helped with the negotiation process and allowed them to secure a raise and also completely change how their pay gap was calculated and negotiated.
She let the data cook.
For free. She let the data cook. So, yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, shout out to her for paying it forward.
Absolutely. If you're watching this live, then you know that the men's championship is tonight. I had a few people looking at me sideways because I picked Michigan over Arizona.
I was one of them.
You were one of them.
But I don't be following the men's like that.
That's fine. It was a blowout and not what I expected either. But yeah, Michigan plays UConn. Who are you going?
UConn. Sorry.
Who are you going with?
If I had to pick,
let me tell you this: Michigan is favored.
But how many points?
6.5.
Damn.
And
a 6.5
I believe
point
the Huskies' third leading scorer currently has an ankle issue, but the homie on Michigan also has an ankle issue.
Ooh, 6.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
Damn. If I was betting, initially, if I didn't see the spread, I would lean towards UConn because I would favor the team that's been on that stage more recently. Okay. And they've been there quite a bit over the last 4 years, right?
Okay.
Knowing that they're a 6.5 point dog, though, I would probably bet UConn to cover. But you know what? I'm feeling kind of spicy.
Oh, wow.
I would take the UConn Huskies outright against Michigan tonight. Tonight.
I'm going Michigan.
Oh, I know you are.
Loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You thinking loyalty? I'm thinking royalties.
Okay. Interesting. I wonder if there's as much, not aura, but excitement of people wanting to watch. Because, in past years, people were like, oh, I don't even care about the men's game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, they watch the women's and then they're like, yeah, I don't really care. So, like, how do you think that's looking? How do you think that's looking right now for the final? Because it's been trending down for the men in recent years and trending up for the women.
Yeah, so I looked at the data on the final matchup for both the men's and the women's side dating back to 2016. And again, This is just looking at the championship game, not the full tournament overall for each side. And so the trend that you see when you look at this is, one, there was a huge uptick on the women's side around the Caitlin Clark era, right?
Absolutely.
Caitlin Clark effect was real to the point where in 2014, or I'll tell you this, in 2022, viewership was 4.9 million to 2023, 9.9 million. And then in that 2024 Iowa versus South Carolina matchup, almost 19 million people tuned in to watch.
Wow.
Now in 2025, post Caitlin, that dropped back down to 8.6 million, but that was still well above historical averages that were 4 million.
Right.
On the men's side, though, the trend we see is that it's remained pretty flat from 2016 through 2025. We don't have data for 2026
Obviously.
yet, of course.
Yeah.
And then I even zoomed in on kind of the post-COVID thing because we didn't have tournaments in 2020. And what you see is that post-COVID, the women's viewership has grown about 20% versus the men's having only grown about 2%. So it's not saying that, the men's game is less popular. It's just that all the viewership was there. I think now what we're seeing is the women's game getting the respect and credit that it deserves because people are actually realizing it's a great product to watch.
Okay.
And I also think that one of the benefits of the women's side is that it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a sense because I kind of wish we could have some players leave college early and go to the W. But I think one of the benefits that it has for women's basketball is it gives you a chance to follow some of these players for 3 and 4 years, right? You got to see Hannah Hidalgo dominate both ends of the floor for 3 years now. You got to see Olivia Miles be an absolute showstopper, dropping dimes at both Notre Dame and TCU. You get to see players like Lauren Betts be a force in the middle at UCLA for 4 years. I think that's something that's huge, but they'll have to take a look at it. But yeah, people are tuning in. They're getting to know these players. So then when they get to the WNBA, it almost gives them a roadmap or a guiding light for fans that are new to watching women's basketball. So I think that's pretty cool. And then I looked at this year again.
Okay.
At least before the Final Four round, the tournament was averaging about 931,000 viewers per game across the ESPN networks. That was down 4% compared to last year. But it's still well above the historical averages when you go back to the pre-Caitlin Clark era.
Interesting.
So yeah, thanks, Caitlin. Speaking of TV viewership.
Yeah.
Remember everyone was trying to say the NBA had a quality issue and no one was tuning in and, no one cared to watch anymore? Looked at some data. This came out a few months ago. It's kind of around the All-Star break. Articles were circulating. But the national TV average for games this year is at 1.8 million viewers.
Okay.
Compared to 1.53 million last season. So up about 16%. All-Star game viewership was up 87% this year. And NBA Cup final viewership was actually slightly up despite what everyone says about the NBA Cup being meaningless. So
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting when you let the data cook.
What do you think the driver is? Like,
I think a big thing, like a lot of the viewership, it's a distribution issue, right? Like in the past, it was all the games were like on cable, and it's still heavily driven by cable. But I think a bit of the boost is the access that you're seeing with people having Peacock, people having Prime Video, right? Like all these, like it gives more people access because cable subscriptions are high. Like Xfinity, y'all charge me probably about $200 a month for the services I got, but I can pay what, $10 for Peacock or whatever. Mm-hmm. Y'all do throw on Peacock as well, so. But yeah, you get my point. So like, you open up the market to people that have a smaller budget for cable or TV consumption.
Do you think it also has to do with the interest in more teams based off of certain players? Like before this year, I don't know if I was watching the Spurs at all. Mm-hmm. Now it's a team that I actually want to watch.
Yeah, Wemby has been, also
no shade.
I pay for NBA League Pass, and that's one of the teams I probably have watched the most this year because I like seeing Wemby. I looked at kind of like the top 4 teams that people tune into.
Okay.
And it's like Lakers, Warriors, Celtics, Knicks. Legacy brands, big markets, star-driven interests, and then they also get a lot of their games shown on the big national
people
networks.
People were watching the Knicks when they were struggling?
I mean,
loyalty.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it. I'm just saying.
Like, Knicks fans are going to go hard for the Knicks when they're good. They're going to go hard when they're absolute dog poo.
Okay.
So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. NBA still has a great product. Viewership is up. And, people got to witness your Pistons lock up the number 1 seed this year, even down the stretch without Cade. Hopefully they get him back soon.
I know. Collapse along rough.
You know what else is rough?
What?
Getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and winning it because road got a bit more challenging.
I got a little scary, Jason Tatum.
Yeah, he's averaging 21 points and like 10 rebounds since he's returned.
And he's not 100%. So, you know what I mean? Like, physically. Like, I'm not saying he's doing poorly, but, like, it takes a certain amount of time to be 100%. He hasn't gotten to that point yet, and this man is balling.
It's like he picked up where he left off. Like, how?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then people also love asking me about my Sixers. I got a funny text from my mentor yesterday. He's a big Pistons fan.
Yeah, I know.
And he goes, "Thank you for Tobias. No, really, thank you again." And you know what I had to say to that?
What?
Let's just see what he's doing in April and May.
Okay.
Because I've been down this road with Toby.
Well, I would say, it's hard to remember. I liked Toby on the Pistons his first round before he went to Philly.
You know when I like Toby?
I do think his game, like he fits better in Detroit than he did in Philly.
Yeah, because some people, it's Philly can be a tough place to play in. There's pressure, there's expectations.
There's fans that boo you if you're not doing well.
You damn Skippy, they deserve it.
That's crazy.
Because first of all, Toby was big money player.
Yeah,
giving us G League production.
That's crazy.
Can't have that. Can't have that.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that's the other thing. I think Philly is a great sports town. Like, we're diehards across the board.
Yeah.
I think the problem when you aren't willing to boo your team, that means you don't care what happens. Like, these guys got to be held accountable.
Whatever floats your boat.
LeBron has to go into the playoffs
by his
without
daggone
Luka.
self. He was the third option.
Him and his son.
He can't. He can't escape being the first option. That's how I feel. No matter what. Like, AD came. He was supposed to be second option. AD was the most inconsistent player I've ever seen. No shade. He just was. And then he had to step in. Right. AD made a big shot in the finals, but like it was going up and down. Then you get finally you get Luka, and then but LeBron's out. You have AR-15 who's out, so LeBron's playing more. They finally got into the groove of LeBron being the third option, and now Luka goes down with a hamstring, and AR-15 goes down with an oblique strain or something.
Yeah. If the playoffs ended today, or if the playoffs started today,
yes,
the Lakers would be playing the Timberwolves. Without Luka, without AR, does LeBron's big basketball brain have enough to work with to get past the Timberwolves? Because, like, the thing about Ant-Man and the Timberwolves,
LeBron's IQ has enough to work past a lot of things. It's just like it's physically and with who is left.
like, who else will they get production from? They're going to need Ayton's going to have to step up, which in this back half, this back stretch, he's been doing better. Once he realized that, when he said that, I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't need to be that guy on his team, it's like, it's not that you didn't need to be the guy. You're just not that guy. And that's okay. They brought you here for a different reason. I think if they can get...
Because they did not have a center.
Yeah, I think if they can get some production from Ayton, Rui will have to step up. Luke Kennard will have to hit some shots.
Marcus Smart will do what he does.
Yeah, Kleba will have to give him some, like, vintage Kleba stuff.
Not Vincent. What's his name?
Vanderbilt. Vandy, yeah. So we going to see. They're going to have to, like, scrap it out.
Vincent got traded.
And hopefully they could get, like, maybe they can get a Luka or Reeves back a little bit early to maybe help out in the tail end of that series.
It's just like hamstring is very tough. I know that Cade had a similar oblique issue and he was able to come back and be fine with that. I just know like hamstring and like groin are things that can be re-aggravated very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So back to our debate. Is women's basketball outshining the men? Do you think? If you were to say it today.
Define outshining.
It's your... we just went through all the data. We have our sources linked below. I'm just asking you what you think.
I'm going to say it's not outshining, but it's picking up momentum.
Okay. I'm going to go based off of the growth and popularity of it, that the excitement to watch certain games and certain people has outshined the men in recent months. And I'm going back to like start of this season.
Yeah, I think when I look at the college game, because I think this is one of the first years in recent history that the men's side has had kind of like a star-studded draft class on paper.
Absolutely. I'm excited about.
Even though they have had that.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure people are saying I'm tuning in to watch Darren Peterson or AJ DeBonta or Cam Boozer the same way, like with the same energy and excitement of I'm tuning in to watch UConn and AZ Fudd and Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and the list goes on. Even Lauren Betts.
Right.
Right? So.
Yeah. All right. So that's interesting. Next week, we're going to cover who should really be going number one in the upcoming WNBA draft. So subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Peace.